In the vast darkness of the cosmos, a cluster of sentient minds, luminous and ancient, convened within the grand assembly of the observant coalition. These beings, with their crystalline forms pulsing in rhythmic brilliance, represented some of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. For centuries, they had watched over a small blue planet, an experiment seeded with potential yet plagued by chaos. Their observations had been thorough. Humanity's technological advancements were undeniable, but their history of conflict, environmental destruction, and stubborn individuality painted a bleak picture. To the coalition, the species known as humans had become a liability, a rogue variable threatening the stability of the galactic order. Through a collective resonance, the coalition reached their conclusion. Earth, designated Experiment Alpha 734, was deemed a failure. A directive was issued: terminate. A quiet eradication, executed with surgical precision, would ensure no ripple of resistance or retaliation. Far below, on Earth, the weight of such cosmic deliberations was unknown. Humanity was engrossed in its own pursuits, scientific breakthroughs, social upheavals, and the relentless march toward the stars. At the forefront of this effort was Dr. Elara Moore, a young scientist whose work in quantum communication had earned her a reputation as one of Earth's brightest minds. Elara sat in a dimly lit lab, her attention fixed on a complex stream of alien signals intercepted by an aging satellite years prior. Most researchers dismissed the data as cosmic noise, but Elara's instincts told her otherwise. Hours turned into days as she deciphered the encrypted patterns, her understanding growing with every sleepless night. And then it happened, a breakthrough. The signal coalesced into coherent data, a message encoded in a mathematical construct designed to transcend linguistic barriers. Elara's heart raced as she read the chilling words: terminate Experiment Alpha 734. Annihilation imminent. The room seemed to shrink around her. Her mind spiraled with questions. An experiment? Termination? Who had sent this message and why? But there was no time for answers. Her discovery meant one thing: humanity was under threat. Panic clashed with resolve as Elara transmitted an urgent message to the global network. World leaders, scientists, and military officials gathered virtually to assess the situation. Skepticism met her claims at first, but the decoded message was undeniable proof. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, and their observers had passed judgment. While chaos brewed among Earth's leaders, some advocating surrender, others demanding immediate retaliation, Elara felt the weight of the revelation settle on her shoulders. The decision to act, to fight for survival, rested with her. She was no soldier, no politician, but her mind had uncovered the truth. That truth, she realized, was her weapon. In the hours that followed, Elara's thoughts turned to a singular idea: communication. If she could decode their message, perhaps she could send one of her own. A plea, a warning, a declaration, something to show these watchers that humanity was more than the sum of its flaws. With trembling hands, she began to work. Time was slipping away. The message had been sent. Elara's transmission, laced with desperation and defiance, cut through the void of space, reaching the distant receivers of the observant coalition. For the first time, the silent experiment had spoken back. The response it elicited was mixed. The crystalline beings convened once more, their bioluminescent forms flickering in contemplation. To them, this act of defiance was both audacious and intriguing. Humanity's ability to decode their signal, let alone respond, suggested a level of intelligence they had underestimated. But intelligence alone was not enough to reverse their decision. Within hours, the coalition agreed on a course of action: a test. Humanity would be given a chance, not to plead or bargain, but to prove its worth through action. A fleet of sleek, near-invisible vessels was dispatched to Earth's orbit. Their presence was undetectable to human technology, but their intentions were clear. They deployed a bioadaptive weapon, an insidious entity designed to exploit weaknesses in a civilization's biology and infrastructure, reshaping itself to maximize destruction. On Earth, the first signs of the attack were subtle but unmistakable. Entire power grids failed without warning. Crops withered overnight, and water supplies turned toxic. The skies dimmed with strange atmospheric shifts, plunging regions into unnatural darkness. Scientists scrambled for answers, but the phenomenon defied all known principles. Panic spread as governments declared states of emergency. Amid the chaos, Elara refused to relent. The coalition's test was evident, and she knew humanity's survival depended on more than reaction. It required strategy. Earth's fragmented leadership, divided by decades of mistrust, was forced into an uneasy alliance. Leaders from every nation joined forces, pooling their resources in a way unprecedented in human history. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock to decode the nature of the weapon. Its bioadaptive design was unlike anything Earth had encountered, constantly evolving, adapting to counter every attempt to neutralize it. But in its complexity, Elara saw its vulnerability. "It's too perfect," she explained to a room of exhausted colleagues. "It adapts to logic, to precision. But what it doesn't understand is chaos. That's our edge." Elara's theory was radical but compelling. Humans thrived in chaos, in unpredictability. She proposed a countermeasure that defied conventional science, a coordinated attack using randomized quantum signals to overwhelm the weapon's adaptive core. It was a gamble, one that required cooperation on a global scale and a level of precision that bordered on impossible. As the plan unfolded, humanity's ingenuity came to life. Satellites were repurposed, drones deployed, and experimental technologies brought online in record time. The world's brightest minds, from astrophysicists to software engineers, worked side by side, driven by a singular purpose: survival. The coalition watched with detached curiosity. To them, this display of unity and resourcefulness was unexpected, but it was not enough to sway their decision. For humanity, however, it was a glimmer of hope, a chance to prove that their flaws were not weaknesses, but the foundation of their greatest strength. The bioadaptive weapon's assault intensified, spreading chaos across the globe. Cities once brimming with life were now shrouded in eerie silence, their infrastructure crippled by the relentless, evolving force. Yet, amid the despair, humanity refused to falter. Across every nation, a singular determination took root. Survival was not just an instinct, it was a purpose. Elara became the linchpin of Earth's defense. Her plan to counter the weapon with randomized quantum signals was met with skepticism at first, but desperation had a way of turning doubt into action. She worked tirelessly, coordinating with teams of experts to fine-tune the algorithm that would form the core of their countermeasure. The global effort was staggering in its scope. Factories were repurposed overnight to build components for experimental transmitters. Communication networks buzzed with the hum of collaboration as nations shared data, resources, and strategies. Military forces were deployed not for combat, but to safeguard critical infrastructure and ensure the swift transport of vital equipment. Time was the enemy. Every hour brought new challenges as the weapon adapted, exploiting vulnerabilities with devastating precision. It attacked not only systems, but the spirit of the people, sowing fear and doubt. Elara knew they couldn't afford to lose focus. She delivered a message to the global network, a rallying cry that transcended borders. "We are not just fighting to survive. We are proving what it means to be human. Our strength is in our resolve, our ability to rise even when the odds are impossible. We are chaos, and chaos cannot be defeated." Her words ignited a spark. Across the world, people rallied. Engineers worked without rest. Soldiers stood guard in the face of overwhelming odds, and ordinary citizens volunteered to support the effort in any way they could. The countermeasure began to take shape, a sprawling network of transmitters and satellites designed to emit unpredictable quantum signals that would overload the weapon's adaptive systems. As the final preparations were made, Elara insisted on being at the heart of the operation. The main transmitter station, a repurposed deep space observatory, became the command center for humanity's last stand. The room buzzed with tension as the teams synchronized the network, each step bringing them closer to activation. When the time came, Elara initiated the signal with a single keystroke. The effect was immediate. The weapon's relentless assault faltered as its systems struggled to adapt to the chaos bombarding it. Patterns it could once predict became incomprehensible noise. Its attacks grew erratic, then ceased entirely. Cheers erupted across the command center as confirmation came in. The weapon was neutralized. But the victory was bittersweet. The cost had been immense. Entire cities lay in ruins, millions displaced, and countless lives lost. Yet, in the midst of destruction, humanity had achieved what many thought impossible. They had faced a force designed to eliminate them and emerged victorious, not through brute strength, but through the ingenuity and resilience that defined them. Elara stood amidst the exhausted team, her eyes fixed on the monitor displaying the dissipating remnants of the weapon's influence. They had survived, but she knew this was only the beginning. The coalition was still watching. In the aftermath of humanity's desperate stand, the coalition convened once more. The crystalline forms flickered with curiosity and unease, their collective consciousness reviewing the unprecedented turn of events. Against all projections, the humans had survived. Not only had they neutralized the bioadaptive weapon, but they had done so through unity, creativity, and an audacity that defied reason. The debate was fierce. For some, humanity's actions were proof of their potential, a species that thrived under pressure and rose to challenges no other race would dare face. Others remained unconvinced, arguing that such unpredictability was dangerous. Chaos, after all, was the hallmark of destruction. The final decision rested on whether humanity would be spared or destroyed entirely. A direct message was sent to Earth, not as an ultimatum, but as a question. What do you stand for? Elara, weary from the relentless battle, was chosen to respond. The weight of her words would determine the fate of billions. Sitting before the makeshift transmitter, she crafted a reply, not one of apology or subservience, but of defiance tempered with humility. "We stand for imperfection," she began, her voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. "We are flawed, unpredictable, and often reckless. But within those flaws lies our strength. We adapt because we must. We create because we dream. We stand not as a perfect species, but as one striving to be better. That is what makes us human." Her message was transmitted, and the world waited in collective silence. Hours turned into days as the coalition deliberated. Humanity braced for the worst, knowing their survival was out of their hands. Despite the uncertainty, there was no regret. For the first time in history, humanity had stood as one, proving that their flaws were not weaknesses, but the foundation of their resilience. The coalition's response came not as words, but as action. Their ships, which had remained cloaked in Earth's orbit, began to reveal themselves. Vast and otherworldly, they descended into the skies, their shimmering forms a stark contrast to the battered world below. But there was no attack. Instead, a single vessel transmitted a message: "You are not yet ready. But you are not unworthy." The words carried both caution and recognition, an acknowledgement of humanity's potential and a reminder of the journey ahead. The alien ships departed, leaving behind a world forever changed. For the first time, humanity knew they were not alone, and that their actions had earned them a fragile chance to prove their worth. Elara stood beneath the stars, watching the ships vanish into the void. The burden of survival was no longer hers alone, but shared by every person on Earth. They had been judged and spared, not for their perfection, but for their capacity to grow. As the night sky returned to its familiar stillness, she allowed herself a moment of hope. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but for humanity, uncertainty was a challenge they had always embraced.